Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to day 26 in the 30 Habits in 30 Days video series. Dear Lord! So day 26, identity, reframe, and conscious generation. So if you've done the last few days, the silent retreat on day 23, pattern recognition, day 24, and pattern integration, day 25. What I've experienced in the last few days has not been easy, especially today, this morning. I feel like what I've realized is trying to do these habits like day after day. This is some really deep emotional work, and it can be a little bit destabilizing and confusing, especially because this isn't always a linear process. It's cyclical. So once we have awareness, we become more aware of our own pain, our own suffering, our own stories. When we identify these triggers, it can bring up old grief. What happened to me this morning was I identified, okay, my old story of not feeling like I'm enough. And the behaviors I usually engage in when I get these feelings of feeling like I'm not enough stem from, the past, and I have to try and overachieve and prove my worth. And I realize a lot of this ties to these past traumas. And I identified that yesterday and the day before, and then working on integrating it and just breathing and being there with it. And today, the lesson was generating a new identity. So I was thinking about, okay, what are the affirmations I could come up with in order to move in the direction of the identity that I want. So instead of feeling like I'm not enough and believing that I'm not enough and I have to prove my worth and I have to achieve in order to be good enough, I have to provide value in order to be worthy. All of these things brought up this awareness of I adapted those beliefs based on a survival strategy to try and avoid pain and be safe. So at the time that I generated those, it was because I had so much grief and sadness and chaos and depression in my life. And I was using drugs and alcohol to try to numb the pain. And I remember one night when I was very intoxicated and on cocaine and alcohol and marijuana. And I realized it. I was like, wow, I'm an addict. I'm just anything I do, I just obsess with it and I just go full speed. Like I just can't help it, but just like obsess and do more and more and more. And a buddy of mine that I was with, he said, well, why don't you obsess over your health? Addict yourself to your health and healthy behaviors, healthy habits. And that stuck with me. And I think that overachiever kind of kicked on because that is what helped me get out of addiction and alcohol and drug abuse. So this like desire to achieve and improve myself came from it became a survival mechanism for me to get sober, stay sober, move in the direction of staying alive instead of nearly dying like I almost did when I almost overdosed on drugs. So that survival mechanism came online and replaced the addiction that I was in, which was just numbing the grief and the anger and the feelings of betrayal and feeling like I wasn't good enough. So that survival strategy replaced addiction, which kept me alive and served me for a long time to the point where I'm here now and I reflect on my life and I'm like, okay, what have I accomplished? I was a college football player. I got 3 master's degrees and a bachelor's degree. I recorded 4 rap albums. I wrote a self-help book. I've had so many different jobs. I was a professor for, 8 years. I was a career counselor. I've been a high school teacher, a construction superintendent, a life insurance agent. I've tried and pursued all these different things to varying degrees of achievement and success, all because I was trying to survive. And I felt like achievement was how I could better myself and feel like I was enough, because that was the survival mechanism I learned to get out of addiction. So I'm almost 13 years clean and sober. And this morning, this just dumped on me because I've been integrating from yesterday and recognizing this pattern. And this pattern is like, I was just hoping to like provide some teaching, and now I'm like living it as I'm teaching it. And it's what I'm realizing as I'm sharing this is we're doing this in a sequential order, which makes it feel like it's a linear process, but it's cyclical. Okay. So today I'm trying to come up with the lesson for generating a new identity when I'm actually still living the experience of integration. I am still in the process of feeling the grief from my past, that unresolved grief that I tried to cover up with addiction, that I tried to cover up with overachieving. That grief is now becoming unfrozen. So I'm feeling certain feelings that I had from when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. When I was very heavily addicted to alcohol, drugs. So I'm re-experiencing and remembering that grief that I had back then. And the whole point in becoming aware of that is because that was still driving my behavior, even though it wasn't into addiction to numb it and escape it. It was in overachieving. It was in proving my worth through achievement. It was in learning more, being more, doing more, forcing myself. Like, it's hard for me to rest because I always feel like I have to go and achieve something greater in order to feel valuable, worthy, good enough. So today the lesson is on generating a new identity, but I'm still integrating the awareness and recognizing, okay, I've mapped my trigger. I recognize the pattern. Now I'm trying to integrate the pattern. How do I do that? I just have to sit and feel this, do my breathing technique, the 4-6 breathing whenever this emotion comes up. So that's what I've been doing all morning, is just sitting with this old grief, sitting with this discomfort, allowing it to be there. And I know today's lesson is to generate a new identity, but I feel like if you're still integrating and you're still feeling the like heightened emotions from this integration of recognizing your triggers, and it's caused some old grief or old memories to come up, it's important to fully integrate that before we try to generate a new identity. Because I know from my past and from what I've been experiencing, if we just try to generate a new identity too quickly, it's not always in alignment with our highest good. It might just be another survival strategy that we're implementing. It might be a step better than what we have done in the past. You know, my survival strategy for overachieving was better than drug addiction and alcohol because that almost killed me. This survival strategy of overachieving actually led me to succeed in certain ways and helped me grow in certain ways. But I think what I'm realizing now is my attachment to that identity is I've always identified as this, I have to. It's just part of who I am. I have to achieve, I have to be more, do more, I have to provide, I have to prove, I have to perform. You know, it's like, why else would I be alive if not to do something? And I think that was learned behavior from what I observed in my life. And it was conditional value. I'm only valuable if I'm providing something. And so the whole point is, if we're still integrating, we don't want to generate a new identity based on whatever old trauma is resurfacing, because it could just be another false identity that will collapse later. So I'll pretend I'm fully integrated. All right, I'm integrated. Hey! Okay, so what I said the other day about happiness and suffering are optional, from one perspective, that is true. But when you're in that lived experience of old grief and old trauma and remembering old pain, that suffering feels very real. That pain is real. And I think what we need to try to do is find a meaning in it. We can reflect on it and say, okay, I'm aware and I'm re experiencing this old pain. I can sit with it. I can be with it. I can integrate it. I don't have to respond like I used to. I don't have to numb it out with drugs and alcohol. I don't have to self soothe or overachieve. I can just sit in this discomfort, in this grief, in this feeling of like I always had to prove myself to be good enough or to be loved or to feel safe. And I can just sit with that. And I feel like right now, what I'm trying to do is force this growth and force change and force healing. And I think it takes it takes time to integrate. So I know that we're doing these habits, day after day. And I just want to encourage people that if this is too fast, you don't have to force it. You can take a breath, slow down, continue to, work on sustaining the habits that we stacked earlier in the series, getting enough sleep, doing your breathing technique, because all of those things help regulate your nervous system so that you actually can integrate when you have these old patterns come up. You can be more conscious and aware of whether or not you choose to let them direct your behavior or not. So the assignment, when you're ready to generate that new identity from a place of peace and from a place of stability, and once you've integrated your triggers, your patterns, and you're aware of it, and you want a different choice, what I would recommend is do the worksheet. I'll make sure to attach that to the PDF, and I'll do a little screen share of it right here. And basically what this does is we take our pattern that we recognized, we learn to integrate it by allowing ourselves to feel it. We do our 4-6 breathing when it comes up, and then we just create a little bit of space. We recognize it as the old story. We name it. Okay, this is the I'm not enough story. This is the I'm the, overachiever because I'm not enough story. And then we recognize that. We say, okay. And we don't have to create the polar opposite affirmation because that can feel too far out and too distant from what we believe to be true. So the affirmations we should create should be something we can believe. We need evidence of our new identity. So the identity that we can try to affirm needs an affirmation that is something we can actually get behind and say, okay, I can actually believe this about myself. So for me, the limiting belief story is I'm not enough. I have to achieve in order to be valuable. And the believable story is it wouldn't just be I am enough. I don't have to achieve to be valuable. Because for me, I'm like, I still don't believe that. So for me, the identity that or the affirmation that I'm trying to find, and this is the experiment, try to find, based on what your pattern is, what your core wound or limiting belief is, try to find an affirmation as you soften that limiting belief, as you soften it, try to find one that you can get into that's like, you're not jumping into the deep end of I'm infinitely worthy. Okay, you're trying to find just like you're walking into the wave pool, little steps at a time. So for me, what would it be? The limiting one is I'm not enough. So I guess one of mine might be like I'm learning that I am valuable regardless of what I contribute. I have value. I'm like, I don't fucking believe it, man. Shit. I wrote one down earlier. What was it? Hold on. So I think the middle ground for me, because I'm still integrating, the affirmation that I would use for now is it's basically just recognizing. I recognize this is my old story. I recognize this is my I'm not enough, I need to achieve story. And I'm not going to let that dictate my behavior right now. So what this does, and find something that fits for you that you can repeat. The wording needs to be like, it needs to feel right for you. And that's different for other people. Some people want something more intellectual. Some people want something more heartfelt. I suggest something simple and repeatable. For me, it just comes down to, instead of I'm not enough, this is the I'm not enough story. That recognition and awareness that's the key, is recognizing that, and then just saying, I'm learning that I don't have to act on that story. I recognize this is the story that's coming up. I don't have to act on that story right now. I am safe in this moment. Deep breath. I am safe to feel my feelings. As we unlock that old trauma, that old grief might come up. Old feelings might come up, and it's okay. We have to just sit with it. So we have to tell ourselves, I am safe to feel my feelings. I don't need to prove myself. Yeah. Well, today is day 26. Identity, reframe, and conscious generation. And if you're still in the process of integrating, take your time, come back and revisit this as you need to. I do offer one-on-one coaching if anybody's interested in learning how to go through these types of things. I know it can be very challenging to do alone, but I want you to know you're not alone. And feel free, if you want to comment or reach out or share this with someone who might, be struggling. If you're struggling, feel free, reach out. I'm doing some one-on-one coaching, so if you'd be interested in that, let me know. I'll put a link somewhere. All right, everybody. God bless. Good luck. See you tomorrow.